Hello, my friends, welcome back. Hope you're keeping yourself hydrated. Collage today, not sure what to call it. People getting their just desserts, satisfying moments of punishment, you decide. We begin with this recently updated story that began a year ago. My husband's ex-girlfriend is dying. Her last wish is to be with my husband. First of all, I apologize if this is badly written. English is not my first language, so please be kind. As the title goes, my 30 female husband's ex-girlfriend, 33 female, was recently diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer, and her last wish is to be with my husband, 35 male. My husband, let's call him Seb, and his ex Tanya became best friends after their breakup a couple of years ago due to her infidelity. They were together for 5 years. Needless to say, they remained in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I say it never made me feel uncomfortable even once. It did, and it still does, because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it, and in fact would even call or message me when she can't get a hold of Seb. Aside from cancer, she also has some mental health issues. Thus, my husband would always tell me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he will never get back to her, and that he only sees her as family. Those are some weird parameters you have, my man, to consider her family when you have no dependents, and she literally betrayed you. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him about the sad news. My husband cried with her and told her everything is going to be okay. They were on the phone the whole day. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Seb and I moved to Australia a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya is in Canada. Now, they mostly talk via long-distance call or WhatsApp. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me, but what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her, and I genuinely feel sad. I asked him what's going to happen now. Seb told me he's going back to Canada, which is a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, what about me? He said if I can't leave my job, then he's going to visit me whenever he gets the chance. I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call and have been ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yesterday, I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel like that I'm selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce because obviously he's choosing her over me, but at the same time, I thought of why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considered Tanya and her family like his own, as he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now, but Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life, I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship. I feel sick, confused. I want to call her, yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me, for using her sickness to get what she wants, for being a bitch. I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? So that brings a bit more understanding then to Seb's definition of family here. They were literally his first genuine experience of having that, so it makes sense that he does want to keep her family, more specifically, around. And we can agree to the observational fact that Tanya has some possible ulterior motives with all this, but ultimately, I don't think that's Seb's fault. Even in OP's own eyes and perceptions, she sees that he sees her as a sister. I don't doubt he's made it clear to her in the past that's reassured her that there would never be anything further going on. Would you even say it's fair to argue that this whole accusation of stealing someone's partner? Like, no, you can't steal someone like their property. Your husband isn't your property. He's the one choosing to do this, not her. Any feelings you have about this situation should be entirely because of his actions. Should OP learn to respect and trust her partner? Or should the husband treat his dying, friend, sister, ex, as just someone in the past and just trying to create drama? Again, personally, kinda hard to make that accusation when she is literally dying. Now, OP did come back to the comments to thank everyone for their thoughts and suggestions, and while some may think that Tanya's lying about this in some crazy fabrication, she's not. Originally, she was diagnosed a couple of years ago and has been on treatment for it. So there's definitely a lot of evidence that it's actually happening. And let's also clarify, to be with him wasn't to sleep with him, it was just so he is around to support her in her passing. I mean, if you really think about it, at this point, he's flying up to go to her funeral. And it should be also mentioned that Seb even suggested to OP that she goes back with him, but it's her job specifically that's getting in the way. But yes, despite this, OP still seems confident that divorce is the wise decision here. So is it actually necessary? Well, in the update, less than a day ago, we finally find out. So Seb did end up flying back to Canada in January last year, 2023 for context. Before he flew, we talked about the situation, and I told him I've been in contact with a divorce lawyer. He was surprised. He said he didn't expect me to leave him just because he needs to be with his family. I remember at the time, all I felt was anger. I was so mad that he's making it sound like I'm the bad person. Nevertheless, the conversation didn't end well. He left without any closure, but he said he will be back in March. I was left alone. January to March last year was the darkest days of my life. I knew I did nothing wrong, but I ended up blaming myself for everything. I hate to admit it, but I canceled the meeting with my lawyer as I started to doubt if I really want to leave him or not. I love him so much to the point that I'm willing to accept him again when he's back, but during the entire time he was gone, he rarely called to check on me. I had to call him most of the time. I know, I'm dumb. I feel so alone and sad. I begged for his attention, to give me some of his time, to be with me again. All those times, he kept telling me that Tanya needs him more. March, I was expecting him to come back so we can talk, but he didn't come back. He said he needs to stay more and promised me he will be back in May. I don't know what happened to me when I got that call from him early March to tell me he won't be flying back to Australia. At the time, I felt like there was a switch that suddenly turned off, because somehow I stopped caring. When he told me he won't be back until May, I knew I have to move forward without him. Well, fast forward to May, he was back. That day, we sat down to talk. He broke down and said, "I can't lose you too." When he said that, I thought Tanya was gone. But no, she's not. And as far as I know, she's still alive to this day. I asked what happened, and he told me that Tanya asked him to go back and be with me. He said that Tanya is sorry for everything. Seb didn't want to leave her, especially when he saw how bad she was doing. They had a fight, and according to him, Tanya wants him out of her life. If I was the same dumb person, I would totally accept him back, but at the time, all I could think was, he's only back because Tanya doesn't want him anymore. So I let him cry. I comforted him, and I let him stay in my apartment. A week after, I told him I'm divorcing him. At first, he refused to leave. It was a long and painful process, but on my birthday in July, finally realized that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. By August, he was back in Canada. Divorce is not finalized yet, but we have been separated since he left. He tried to contact me several times last year. Tanya also tried to contact me. Everyone, including my family, tried to convince me to give him a second chance. But that day in March, when I finally came back to my senses, I knew nothing could make me change my mind. As of now, I'm doing fine alone by myself. I got promoted last year and moved to a bigger apartment near the beach. I found new friends and recently getting into Pilates. I've traveled Australia and New Zealand and met some amazing people. I feel like a completely different person. Last year was the major turning point of my life. Seb still bothers me from time to time, but he knows I couldn't care less anymore. Sometimes I talk to him. I still care, but not as much. I've been told by our common friends that he's not doing well. He became alcoholic and couldn't get a job because of it. He's mostly couch surfing because Tanya doesn't want him to live with her. Lol. That bitch. So thank you for Reddit, and to anyone in the same situation, know that it gets better. It was hard, but she promises it gets better. So yeah, what a wild ride. It's not exactly confirmed what happened between Tanya and the husband, because I mean, clearly he's omitting some information. As if Tanya would want him out of her life forever just because he came to see her and support her for a few months. Like, he clearly tried some things that she was obviously not in the mood for on her deathbed. But here's why people are suspicious that maybe Tanya was still being a conniving villain than what we might think. So Tanya wants the cake, I suppose, but she refuses to eat it. She only wants to watch your marriage burn while she destroys it. Now, I have no sympathy for your spouse. He may accompany Tanya to hell on earth and beyond while holding hands. Don't get me wrong, a life is a life, and I'm happy for her to still have hers, but seriously, she knew what she was doing before she even asked, and she only sent him back when she knew enough time and damage had been done to ruin the marriage. Now, I'm glad Opie isn't accepting second place in her husband's, well, ex's life. Now, I personally lean more towards this, that I don't think Tanya actually expected him to be as committed to her as she was planning. She was just expecting one last visit to say goodbye and wasn't expecting him to blow up his own life to be with her. And when she started figuring this out, she's like, you are terrible of a person. Like, how could you do this to your wife? Just ditching her to be with me? And let's be reminded here as well, it was the husband who informed OP of this whole situation, not exactly Tanya reaching out both of them to say the exact words that the husband is implying she said. For all we know, she said, if you could visit, I'd appreciate that, but obviously you're on the other side of the world, so I don't expect you to. You know, something along those lines. Either way, it's good to see OP is having a happy future ahead of themselves. And now for a moment that you have to wonder, is it practicing your boundaries or just insecurity? Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I was gonna break up with her if she went on vacation with male friends? Basically, my girlfriend went on vacation with her male friends. I told her this made me uncomfortable and didn't want her to go. By the way, she used to hook up with one of them before she met me. She told me it'd be fine and that they are like brothers to her. Okay, but you hooked up with one of them? Well, I already made the decision to break up with her right there and then, but I wanted to get my stuff from her place before anything, and I figured I should do that while she's gone. I also didn't want to break up over text or call, so I waited for her to come back. I picked her up when she came back, dropped her off, and gave her the key to her place back and broke up. She started crying, and she figured out it was because of the vacation. She kept saying that nothing happened. I told her she knew I wasn't comfortable with this, and she still went. She mentioned that I should have said that I'd break up with her if she went, and that if she knew, she never would have gone. I told her I didn't want to be controlling and threatening with ending the relationship. We kept going back and forth over this for a while, then over to some edits because, understandably, I'm going to go against the grain and say you're the a-hole because you try to act like you aren't giving ultimatums or being controlling, but that's exactly the behavior you enacted, but just didn't have the spine to tell her straight up. Continuing that you being uncomfortable about this says more about you than her. Having an intimate history with someone doesn't mean it's continuously happening. You're literally being the very thing that incels are made fun of being because they're so insecure about every other man out there being competition. And it's got a lot of support. Who cares? Clearly hundreds of morons. You don't get to declare anything and call it a boundary. You're weaponizing therapy talk. Ultimately, you can't say not the a-hole here and not be a piece of schmidt in my book. These people deserve every misfortune. Dirt-sniffing medievalists. Frick them in their small world tribal mentality. Oh no, it's my boundaries, man. Hope they don't have a boundary on critical feedback, but who are we kidding? So OP edits. A lot of y'all are assuming an awful lot here. Most of you are cool, but to give you a bit more context, 1, she never actually introduced me to these friends, even though I mentioned I wanted to meet them. She kept making excuses. 2, she never told me she used to hook up with her friend. I only found out because I found an old picture of them kissing when she was showing me some old travel pics. 3, I was okay with their friendship until now. This was just too much for me. So yeah, most of all y'all are cruel, but I swear, some of y'all act like cheaters don't exist. Did she cheat on me? Who knows? But at this point, I was sick of doubting. Should also be added at the time that apparently, OP wasn't even actually invited. He tried to invite himself, but he couldn't go due to work. And apparently some girlfriends were invited, but they couldn't make it. The Natar side ultimately saying that the fact she claims she wouldn't have gone if she knew you'd break up over it doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. It shows she doesn't care how it affects you unless it becomes a problem for her too. That is zero integrity, and that is not long-term partner material. It should not take you leaving or thinking about leaving for her to not dismiss your feelings. That's asinine. So on one hand, yeah, guys jumped the shark because of an assumption. But also, she has a history with one of the guys, one that she never bothered to point out or establish to her boyfriend. Surely that justifies all his assumptions. Well, coming to the update 3 days later. Hello everyone. My post got a lot of attention. I responded to a few comments and even edited it, so I figured I should update you all. Her male friend reached out to me on Instagram, the one she used to hook up with. He asked if I was dating my ex, and I told him what happened. He actually apologized. He said he didn't know that we were still dating. He said that my ex was talking mad dong about me, and he was confused. See, apparently my ex-girlfriend told him we broke up months ago, and they have been hooking up regularly since. Yes, including the trip. The guy even showed me some pictures of the two of them kissing during the trip. So that explains why she never wanted me to meet them. So all my suspicions were correct. The guy actually seemed like a decent guy. He apologized a lot for what he did. I don't hold any resentment towards him, and I'm glad that I got confirmation that I made the right decision. So, to all of you who supported me, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And one last comment to some of you, my insecurity kept me from wasting any more of my time. It's really astounding because to highlight this comment, so many are hopeful that this other guy dumps her as well, just to, really make her realize how much of a screw up she is. Others agreeing that's probably the next step, but also like, would it have just killed her to just break up with OP? Like, people who act like this are baffling. Who sees relationships, things that require juggling your time between yourself and others, and be like, you know what? I'll just add 3 more balls into my juggling hands. Let's go for 20. Why not? Let's go for a world record. That brings me peace and satisfaction in life. Excessive time management and deceit. Another two-parter. Friends called me a fake engineer. I bought their dinner. My daughter, 17, asked me to post this here. And I'm the dad who does as the women in my life tell me. Which is how I ended up in a restaurant tonight with snobs. So the characters. My wife. Wife's coworker 1. And her husband, who's arrogant engineer 1. Wife's coworker 2. And her husband, my CPA, who is a certified public accountant. And lastly, AE2 and his wife. Each couple has 2 teenage children with us. So to simplify this, there's 3 couples there. CPA is an accountant guy who is an accountant for everyone there, so he knows everyone's salaries, and the other 2 couples, the husbands, are arrogant engineers. We are at a Japanese steakhouse in America where the chefs cook in front of you. My wife's coworker 1 and arrogant engineer 1 invited all of us for their youngest daughter's birthday, since their daughter is close with our daughter. So the parents are at one table and the teens at another. At the teen table, my daughters, 17 and 14, order sushi appetizers, mocktails, and shrimps with scallops. At our table, the sake is flowing along with a few top-shelf drinks. My wife and I order our appetizers, drinks, and dinners. We are all paying for ourselves. And I see AE1 and AE2 seem to be in competition for who can spend the most. My accountant and I chuckle at them and stay out of the fray. Well, that is until AE2 hears my daughter order and says to her,
"Careful now, your daddy is only an agricultural engineer. He doesn't make as much as us real engineers."
For context, they are structural engineers with bachelor degrees. I'm an agricultural engineer with a PhD. I work for governments, private investors, and several agro corporations. I own my own consulting firm. I help build sustainable, reusable gardens, and this work allows me to travel to poorer countries and help them use what they have to start growing their own food. Well, apparently these men thought all I did was travel to impoverished places and teach people to dig in the dirt. They believed I did all this work for free and therefore made very little money. I'm not rich by any stretch, but I'm comfortable. We don't do extravagance, so we have savings and my wife works. However, in 2023, I was awarded a handsome contract to design tower gardens in several states. It's a 7-figure contract over 3 years. Okay, yeah, that's just the life some people have. Let's just see how that is every year. Just divide that by 3. Oh, no, God damn it. Okay, divide that by the 3. I just cashed for 333,000 a year. And that's clearly US dollar, so let's just see what it is in the great colorful Australian dollar. I'm gonna be straightforward. That's probably all I'm ever gonna get in my lifetime. Back to dinner, these guys ask me about the most ridiculous things. Like,
is it good to grow onions and carrots in the same garden?
and were laughing at me and my work until their wives told them to stop. I chalk it up to drunken arrogance and don't even bother to answer. Now my CPA was laughing so hard he almost fell out of his chair. Now apparently he is AE1 CPA as well and knows the ins and outs of both our finances. So the arrogant engineer 1 taunts CPA to tell the table what he brought home last year after bonuses. CPA pulled up the figures on the phone and tells us it's about 1/3 of what I brought home in 2023. The CPA says, I have yours up, want me to share? I decline. And he nods. Cue another round of taunts. I go to the restroom and find the waiter. I pay for the whole check and leave a generous tip in top of what they added for a big party. After our sorbet, after our sober, the waiter thanks me in front of everyone for the tip and wishes everyone a good night. Both the arrogant engineers stare at me for a moment. So I smile, nod, and tell the CPA to tell them my income last year, after which I simply said goodnight. Petty? Absolutely. Gratifying? Damn right. So people believe he's completely missed the mark with his actions here. Could have just paid his own part of the bill, moved on to found better friends. Now, to be fair, it was the wife friends who kind of started this whole thing. Opie didn't actually personally know the arrogant engineers. But after all, rich scream, wealth whispers. If you are comfortable keep it to yourself. And others further pointing out that, yeah, his original ego becomes just as low as theirs the moment he tries to shove himself in their faces. But I agree with this comment. He's just hitting them in the ego. They probably feel emasculated or some other weird masculinity thing, which I agree, it was totally what he was doing here. Opie wasn't insecure, he was just confidently shutting them up in the most respectful, civil way possible. Add on top, I guarantee the wives were merciless on the way home. Oh, and speaking of, in a great lesson to always respect people even if they are slightly lateral to your actual field of expertise, comment says, hey, even if the comps were all equal, you protect the food supply, where they follow a rule book written by a smarter PEs and say,
Yes, this wall meets code and probably won't fall down.
good on you for putting them in their place, OP. To which OP says, in all honesty, I was actually going to ask the arrogant engineer 1 to look at a structural design and bring him in on the contract. I do need a structural engineer for this project, but not that guy. Others egging OP on to keep the receipt and call them back and tell them that was all an interview looking for prospective engineers to bring to your contract. And they failed the interview. But yes, apparently one of the wives was on the phone with the OP's own wife to apologize for their partner's behavior. And they spilled the beans, which brings us to the next update. Hello everyone, this is Old Guy's daughter, 17, with an update. Firstly, Dad is overwhelmed by the comments and DMs, he will get to them all at some point. One point Dad didn't put in the original post was, I was only there because AE1 has a son my age who was my crush. And not now. He was laughing harder than his dad at my dad. Jerk. He even asked how much money my dad stole from the charity to pay for dinner. They really thought all my dad did was charity work. None of them realized he has a PhD. Mum agreed with a lot of you that Dad got played. She has really enjoyed reading comments about it. I think she might get Reddit soon and troll him. She has been kind of smug seeing those posts. She and Dad are the couple that laugh all the time, and this has made them do that laugh until you kiss it out laugh. They are gross, but cute at the same time. Ooh, also, my sister and the birthday girl had a huge fight because apparently AE1 and his wife started fighting after the dinner. Birthday girl blames my dad when clearly it was her dad who was being a jerk. Now Mom and her coworkers agree they married little boys and have clearly not raised them to be men yet. They all vowed to be better and had a girls' night last night, just them. Also, Dad is really glad so many people are asking about his job. He is getting resources together for everyone asking how to break in and had a thesis level essay for a guy with about 40 questions. So expect responses to your DMs this week. There are a lot, so be patient, please. As for the arrogant engineers, neither of them will speak to our family, and not that we give a damn. Well, friends, I might end it there. Thank you for watching. Love your face. Remember to drink water, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.